Hey everyone, in today's episode, we're diving into the latest tech news. The launch of AMD Zen 5 processors, first benchmarks of the Ryzen 7 9700X, and comparison with competitors. We'll also cover Nvidia's new AI accelerators and their production delays, plus fresh updates from Intel, including extended warranties on their latest chips, and Samsung's new HBM3E memory technology. All this and more coming up, so stay tuned on Edge Runners. First up, let's talk about the new Ryzen 9 700X, which has been put through its paces by the team at Hardware Unboxed. Despite the hype around AMD's latest 8-core processor based on the Zen 5 architecture, the results are underwhelming. In synthetic benchmarks and workloads, the Ryzen 9 700X sometimes struggles to outperform its predecessor, the Ryzen 7 700X. For example, in the 7-zip file manager test, it actually lagged behind the older chip, and its lead in the Cinebench 2024 multi-threaded benchmark was only a meager 2%. Gaming performance wasn't much better. In a series of tests across 13 modern games at full HD, the 9 700X only managed a 3% improvement over the 7 700X. In some titles like The Last of Us Part 1, Starfield, and Horizon Forbidden West, the older chip even came out on top. The reviewers at Hardware Unboxed were disappointed, calling the Ryzen 9 700X a major letdown. They suggest that users skip this CPU and opt for the more affordable Ryzen 7 700X instead. A little over 2 months after announcing its new Zen 5 processors, AMD has revealed their official pricing, ranging from $279 to $649. Unfortunately, these prices are slightly higher than what American retailers like Best Buy and Newegg had previously listed. The top-tier 16-core Ryzen 9950X is set at $649, and the 12-core Ryzen 9 900X will be $499, both $50 higher than expected. However, these prices are still lower than the launch prices of their Ryzen 7000 series counterparts. For example, the new Ryzen 9 700X and Ryzen 9 600X are priced $40 and $20 lower, respectively, than their predecessors. These models are hitting the market on August 8th, with the Ryzen 9 900X and 9950X to follow on August 15th. Samsung Electronics' latest HBM3E memory has finally passed Nvidia's certification tests, a significant milestone for the South Korean tech giant. According to sources cited by Reuters, this certification opens the door for Samsung to supply HBM3E memory to Nvidia, which had previously relied on SK Hynix for these chips. Samsung still needs to complete certification for its 12-layer HBM3E stacks, but the 8-layer chips are expected to begin shipments to Nvidia in the fourth quarter of this year. This development could help Samsung catch up in the competitive HBM market where SK Hynix currently leads. Samsung had previously secured Nvidia's certification for its HBM3 memory, primarily for products aimed at the Chinese market. According to TrendForce, HBM3E is expected to become the dominant HBM type by the end of the year, with Samsung aiming to have HBM3E make up 60% of its HBM shipments. Intel has announced that it's extending the warranty on its 13th and 14th generation core processors by an additional 2 years, making it a total of 5 years for boxed versions. This decision comes in response to widespread reports of instability and crashes, particularly affecting models with a power rating of 65 watts or higher. These issues, often manifesting as unexplained system crashes or the notorious blue screen of death, have been traced back to excessive voltage. To address the problem, Intel plans to release a microcode update by mid-August. However, this update won't reverse any damage already inflicted on affected processors. Users whose chips have already been compromised will need to return them for replacement. Intel is also working on a method for easily identifying damaged processors and has initiated an investigation that might lead to a class action lawsuit. The company has promised more details on the warranty extension process soon, but for now, they're advising OEM system owners to contact their manufacturers for further support. It's also worth noting that Intel has clarified that these widespread failures are unrelated to a separate issue with contact oxidation, which was resolved in early 2023. Remember back in February when Phoronix dropped some pretty interesting news? AMD had quietly funded a project to bring a drop-in CUDA implementation to its GPUs built on ROCm, and it was made open source. This project, known as Luda, was developed by Andrei Yannick and allowed CUDA applications to run on AMD GPUs. However, earlier this year, AMD stopped funding the project, and now they've taken things a step further by retracting the open source code. To give you a bit of background, Luda originally started as a CUDA implementation for Intel graphics, leveraging the Level 0 software stack. With AMD's backing, Janik adapted Luda to work with AMD GPUs, and the results were pretty impressive. However, once AMD pulled the plug on funding, the agreement was that the code could go open source, which it did earlier this year. But here's the thing, just recently Janik updated the repository, stating that the code has been taken down at AMD's request. This wasn't due to any legal pressure from Nvidia, as some might assume, but rather AMD itself deciding to retract their approval. Janik also mentioned that he plans to rebuild Luda, starting from the original pre-AMD codebase, but with some changes. Unfortunately, one of the features that won't make a comeback is the Nvidia GameWorks support he had working on AMD GPUs. That code, which included a working implementation in games like Batman, Arkham Knight, will now never see the light of day. It's disappointing to see the original open source code pulled, but it'll be interesting to see where Janik takes Luda next. Nvidia has delayed the mass production of its new AI accelerators based on the Blackwell architecture by at least 3 months due to design flaws, according to a report by The Information. This delay could impact major Nvidia customers, including Meta, Google, and Microsoft. The chips were originally scheduled for mass production in the fourth quarter of this year, but this setback means large-scale shipments won't begin until early 2025. Nvidia has already begun shipping samples of the Blackwell chips, but the delay in mass production could have significant implications for its AI business, particularly as demand for AI accelerators continues to surge. Representatives from Nvidia and its major customers have declined to comment on the matter. Intel recently discussed its progress on upcoming chip technologies during its quarterly conference. The Lunar Lake processors, set to launch ahead of schedule, will be produced mainly by TSMC and targeted at thin and light laptops, including models optimized for AI tasks under Microsoft's Copilot Plus PC program. While Lunar Lake chips will be produced externally, Intel's Panther Lake and Clearwater Forest processors, based on the Intel 18A process, will return to in-house production. Intel plans to introduce Panther Lake in the second half of next year, with Clearwater Forest following for data centers. These advancements in manufacturing technology are expected to improve Intel's profitability by allowing greater control over production costs. At the Future of Memory and Storage event, Phison showcased its latest innovations, earning the Best of Show award for their AI Adaptive Plus platform. Among their highlights was the Phison E31T, the world's first SSD controller with PCI 5.0 support aimed at the mainstream market. This controller offers read and write speeds of up to 10,000 megabytes per second without requiring a heatsink, making it an ideal choice for laptops. It also boasts 1.5 million IOPS for both read and write operations, supporting capacities of up to 8 terabytes. Phison isn't abandoning PCI 4.0 just yet though. Their new E29T controller, built on TSMC's 12 nanometers process, promises to be a leader in efficiency and performance, with read speeds up to 7,400 megabytes per second. In the enterprise sector, Phison's subsidiary Pascari introduced the D200V SSD, offering up to 64 terabytes of storage with PCI 5.0 support. Designed for data centers, this SSD delivers sequential read speeds of up to 14,000 megabytes per second and utilizes 8th gen BiCS Flash QLC. The D200V series is set to revolutionize data storage, potentially scaling beyond 100 terabytes while reducing operational costs. ASUS has rolled out a new BIOS update for motherboards with the Z790 chipset, featuring the latest Intel microcode, version 129. This update is designed to address stability issues with Intel's 13th and 14th generation processors. Notably, the update is expected to maintain current clock speeds and overclocking capabilities. However, it won't help processors that have already been damaged by high voltage, which will need to be returned via RMA. Currently, only a beta version of this BIOS is available, but the full update is expected by mid-August. Users can find the list of supported motherboards and download links on ASUS's official website. MSI has introduced the MCore Liquid I, a powerful liquid cooling system designed for high-end processors with TDPs of 300 watts or more. The system features a finely optimized copper base on the water block, enhancing its cooling efficiency. To make installation easier, MSI has integrated the UNI bracket system, which is compatible with both Intel and AMD sockets. The 360mm version of this cooler requires only one cable for fan connection, thanks to MSI's Easy Connect system. The MCore Liquid I series will be available in 240 and 360mm sizes, with both black and white color options. Sales are expected to begin at the end of August, although pricing details are yet to be announced. OneX Player has unveiled its latest eGPU, the OneX GPU 2, and it's packing AMD's new Radeon RX 7800M RDNA 3. This is an exciting upgrade from their previous model, which used the RX 7600 MXT. The original OneX GPU was known for its cool design, featuring active fan cooling and RGB lights, plus it had a bunch of ports like Oculink, HDMI, DisplayPort, USB-A, USB-C, and even a LAN port. Recently, OneX Player also introduced the M1 Mini PC, a tiny powerhouse with an Intel Core Ultra Meteor Lake CPU weighing only 500 grams. Now they're taking things up a notch with the OneX GPU 2. Although we don't have the full specs yet, it's likely the first eGPU to use the Navi 32 chip. AMD's current mobile lineup includes several Navi 33 and just one Navi 31 model. The Radeon RX 7800M should provide a nice boost for mid-tier gaming laptops, especially since AMD has been a bit behind in this area compared to Nvidia's offerings. While we're still waiting on pricing and the exact launch date for the OneX GPU 2, it's expected to drop later this quarter. Thanks for watching our latest tech roundup. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more updates. Got thoughts or questions? Drop them in the comments below. See you next time.